right, so we're back with another episode of Damage Duns podcast. For those of you that don't know, two ex-heroin addicts talking about life, joy, pain, mistakes, pretty much anything. Shane, I know you want to introduce today's guest, so let's get it going.
I do. We have somebody that I look up to a lot, a very close friend, a published author, an ex-con, a rabbi.
A rabbi, yeah. Somebody
that's seen and helped thousands of addicts and alcoholics with their own recovery and finding their own light. And, without further ado, I'd like to introduce
the Holy Thief, Rabbi Mark Borovitz. Hello.
How are you guys?
Doing quite well, my friend. Shane, let's get it rolling. I know you want to get into some nitty-gritty, dig into why this man is called the Holy Thief, how he helps people, who he helps, how he carries himself today. So let's shoot it.
Yeah, well, we'll start just for a little context of kind of, we don't need to get into everything granular, but just a little bit about your story, how you came to be, into recovery, your struggles and downfalls, as I know, but not everybody knows, of what it was like, before you went to jail, when you got out of jail, all of those kind of qualifying things, and then we'll get into some other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm an old drunk. What can I tell you? My deal was that I always felt half a step off throughout my life. I remember being a kid and thinking everybody else had it together. And the first time I found any kind of peace, not real peace, but peace inside, was when I drank. At my oldest brother's bar mitzvah, I was 7 years old. And I felt, wow, isn't this great? And from then on, at parties, at holidays, etc., I would always have a couple of extras, and everybody laughed. Oh, look at the little kid, etc. And as life kept unfolding, I kept feeling more and more lost, different, not lost, different. That everybody else had it together. They got the joke, and they knew the secret to living well, and I was just out of it.
Was it more of like a sense of inadequacy and just being out of place all the time? That's what was really eating at you?
Out of place.
Got it.
Right.
Understandably so.
My inner life was always telling me why I wasn't good enough. And when I played the comparing and the competitive competition and comparison game, I always lost. Now, nobody said that to me. That was just my inner life. That was my inner dialogue. And the only one who ever really could help me with that dialogue was my father. And when he died, I just went off the rails.
How old were you when that happened?
14.
Okay.
I was 14.
So you started discovering liquor around 7 years old, and then through 14, that's when it really started getting worse?
Yeah. I mean, actually 15 is when it really started to get worse.
Got it.
I started hustling hot merchandise for the mafia because my mother she was making $2 an hour. So, you can't support a family on that. So I just started hustling. And my barber was a fence for the mafia, so I just kept doing it. And that's when alcohol came along with the life. And it soothed me.
Sure.
So I don't know if you know this, but on a bottle of booze it says distilled spirits.
Fairly familiar, but keep going.
So I was always looking for a spiritual connection, and I didn't know it.
I walked into that one.
I try a little bit.
No, that was good. That was good.
And it just, the life of a criminal, and I lived a double life. I had a job, and I was hustling hot merchandise.
Sure.
I showed up for everything, and I was drinking, sneaking out to drink. I was going to bars when I was 16, and nobody carded me. And so just that whole insanity. And I kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And I somebody wanted to take a contract out on me in Cleveland, and I left because the guy they went to was my adopted godfather, and he squashed the beef and told me I was getting sloppy. So I came out to California, and as they say in AA, a geographic doesn't work if you bring yourself.
Sure. And so I have a question. Were you're saying at the beginning you're feeling this sense of inadequacy, out of place, and you recognize that your mom's making $2 an hour, and you're feeling soothed by alcohol, and then you're selling hot merchandise. Was that giving you this false sense of purpose, which is why you got deeper and deeper to things until you got to the point where someone's taking a contract out on your life?
Well, it's a really good question. It wasn't purpose. It was, I put net worth and self-worth together.
I see.
So Shane might be able to relate to this. If I had money in my pocket, I was something. And if I was broke, I was nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that song. We've talked about that a lot, actually.
So that was the whole thing, was that I kept, that was my measuring stick. And it never really soothed me, but it quieted my inner life enough that I could keep going.
Well, I know for me, it just quelled that self-deprecating talk that you're not enough, or you're not this, and you're not that, when you're at least, because also another piece of that, and I'm sure you can relate, is like it becomes, you become entrenched and addicted also to the lifestyle. So now you're managing not only the booze and everything else, now you have this addiction to living fast and the high of selling and getting and moving, and that feeling of like, I'm the man, look at me,
Right.
Which I'm sure you relate to as well.
Yeah, no, that was it. I mean, I was more addicted to the lifestyle than I was to the alcohol.
Yeah.
And at least at that time, and probably for the rest of it. And so, I moved out to California, and I started to get in trouble. I was hustling and working a job and drinking, and, started to get arrested, and bad checks, insurance scams.
How old are you at this time?
I moved out here when I was 21.
Okay, so we're at 21.
No, 25.
25. So you're mid-20s, you're starting to get in trouble with the law, basically.
Right.
You're starting to see some real
Right.
consequences from this lifestyle choice, or these lifestyle choices you've been making. More than
Right.
just the
Now,
contract on
In
your
Cleveland,
life.
Ohio, in Cleveland, you could pay off a judge, but out here, they wouldn't let you pay off a judge. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, you don't have that kind of juice out here, man. Small town Cleveland stuff, huh?
I said to this attorney, what do you mean you can't pay off a judge? Isn't this America?
Yeah, it didn't work that way, huh? Got to have a little more juice than that, huh?
Man, oh man, I'm telling you. And so I got married because it would look good for a court case. I mean, I liked the girl, but it wasn't love.
Yeah.
And certainly not love as I know it today.
Okay.
And I have a daughter that I adore. She is the love of my life. And I kept going to jail. Even though I adored my daughter, my love for my daughter didn't stop me from getting in trouble and going to jail and going to prison. And that's where I learned that love has got to be more than a feeling.
Well, how do you mean?
There's a feeling of love, and then there's an action of love.
Got it.
And I was more into the feeling of love in those years. And I went to prison, I got out, and all I wanted to do was catch up, because I hadn't gotten the lifestyle out of me. I still loved the life. And, once you get arrested once, it's easy to get arrested again.
Absolutely, I'm there with you.
Especially in the 80s in California.
I did it in the 2000s in California. I couldn't speak to that.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got arrested in the end of 86, and I called my first wife because I had a bunch of money on me. I'd been on the run for a few months. And I said, come pick up this money. She said, what bondsman do you want me to call? I said, don't call anybody. The man upstairs is trying to give me a message, trying to tell me something, and I have to sit here till I can figure it out. That was my spiritual awakening. I have no idea where those words came from. This is, 36 years later.
Wow.
And you were already in jail at this point when this happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 34 years later, pardon me. And I still don't know where those words came from. I'm telling you, I have no idea.
But it just came over you, and you didn't want to finesse your way out of the situation. You're like, I have to learn something bigger here.
I couldn't finesse it. I knew that. It was an ecstatic experience. I say that God hit me over the head with hit me between the eyes with a 2x4.
It's a good enough analogy for me.
and that's what happened. And I've been in recovery ever since.
But so that, I feel like that moment it happened to me. I mean, it happened to me, and we can get into that in a little bit, but I feel like at times, and I bet other people have experienced it too, that they felt that sensation, but what you did is you took action on that. I've had experiences like that, and it comes and then it goes, and then I'm back to doing the old things without trying to, take corrective measures on what I need to repair in order to live successfully moving forward, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I had a choice except to follow it.
Yeah.
It was that strong of an experience. And I couldn't imagine not honoring that slap in the face, that, whack in the head. Because I really did believe that God was giving me a message. And, I could fuck with you if you gave me a message. I could blow it off. But God,
it's tough.
I didn't want to fuck with God.
Tough.
You know what I mean? It's just my way. And I started to study. I called my brother, who's a rabbi, and I asked him to send me a Torah and a prayer book. And I started to study, and I studied with the prison rabbi, and I learned Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel saved my life, along with Rabbi Mel Silverman and my brother. Because I read Rabbi Heschel, and he said, immerse yourself in the text. So I started to see myself in the text. And the first, when I read the Garden of Eden story, and God calls out, where are you? And Adam says he's hiding. I'm in a prison cell reading this, and I start to wail. I'm wailing because I realized how long I had hid, and how many times God and other people had said, where are you? What the fuck? Wow. And I blew them off. And I made a decision. And at the same time, I got a letter from my daughter. Okay. She was 6.5 years old at the time. Dear Daddy, I hate you.
Gee.
You're a part of me. When you're in jail, a part of me is in jail. Love, Heather. Oh, I didn't do anything to be in jail. Love, Heather. So I read about hiding and that letter from my daughter.
And you just broke down.
I couldn't do anything but continue.
And that's what helped
this new journey.
That's what helped carry you through. I'm assuming since you got sentenced to prison time, you're looking at some years here. So that type of pain from that moment carried you through this new process. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
Because it would be hard, as Shane was saying, he might have strong resolve in certain moments, and you might have a resolution to not live a certain way, and then as soon as it gets a little difficult, we revert back to our old ways. So I was wondering if you were coming up against like similar experiences like that, and these are the things that broke through those walls of trying to, I guess, turn the other way.
I have to tell you guys something.
Yeah.
I'm a criminal.
Yeah.
My first addiction is a criminal. And I'm an old-time criminal. I learned how to be a criminal from the old Italian mafia.
Got
in
it.
the old Jewish movie. When I made a decision and a commitment, that was it.
That was okay. That's what I was trying to get
Yeah,
at. Okay.
your word is your bond. But
And I made that commitment to God, and I saw it, and I saw myself. So they strengthened, but I wasn't wavering.
He wasn't
I have
wavering. Okay,
never-
that's what I was curious to know. Got it.
Right. Because it was just, when you see something, it's hard to say, oh, no, I didn't see it. I can't not see it.
Yeah, it was undeniable.
Especially that the way that I had this experience and how I followed it up. And it just was,
It was profound.
Well, I want to talk about something
Right.
as well, because
Yeah.
you had this feeling, and I mean, it's gonna kind of fast forward, but we can kind of go back as well. But you had this feeling, and you acted on it, and you ended up getting out, and you and your wife Harriet ended up creating this, this treatment center that is, I mean, I feel like it's divinely inspired, and it's larger than life, and it's saved so many people. So it sounds like the call that you had morphed into something probably bigger than what you ever had anticipated. Or maybe it was something that kept you driving and fueling you to do what you set out and ended up doing.
You guys are asking great questions. I mean, it really. So what happened was, I knew, because I studied tshuva, and I was studying everything, and I was immersing myself in it. I knew that I had to do something that added to the world and added to life, because I'd taken so much out. So much from my family, my daughter, my mother, my sister, my brothers, just about my cousins, my whole family, and anybody I met, I was a horror story to.
Sure.
And so in that time in prison, I knew I had to do something different. And Harriet had already started Beit Tshuva, and I came along about a little over a year into it. And I showed up and I said, I'm here to help. And having no idea what I would do. But I started working at their thrift store. I did Shabbos services twice a month, and I did Torah study, because I had already gotten into the study. And then I just started to grow. I mean, I went to work for $5.63 an hour when I was 37 years old.
Humbling, no?
Yeah, because when you think about it, I was a guy who made my self-worth equal to my net worth.
Yeah.
And that was the transformation that happened in the joint.
Got it.
That I saw, no, I am human. I'm made in the image of God, and I have infinite worth just as being human.
Wow.
That I don't have to do anything, that it's imbued in me. I have spirit, and I have an image of God, as does everybody else. And so the crimes that I did were crimes against the humanness or the humanity of other people. And any amends, or what we call tshuva in Hebrew, is to restore that humanity, that dignity, because that's what I robbed, that's what I assaulted. And that's what we assault anytime we harm somebody. We assault their dignity.
Sure.
Let me ask you a quick question. How many people have come through, and it's twofold, but first I just want to get an idea, and obviously you can ballpark. How many people have addicts, criminals, mental illness, whatever, have come through Beit Tshuva since it started?
Thousands. I don't know.
Thousands for sure. And what
I
I
mean,
want,
probably about 3,000 or 4,000.
okay, and since you've been at the epicenter of that for for decades.
Yeah, for those that don't know, because sorry to cut you off,
No, you're fine.
but there are people that are listening to this that don't know you, and you and your wife built this organization into something that has its hands in changing so many people's lives, and it's become this major.
I mean, I heard about it in Texas. I didn't know it existed. There's been people from all over, I'm sure, other parts of the world.
So I just wanted to give
give
some context to these people who are listening. It's not just only the rabbi or only the holy thief. Part of that is also making Beit Shuva, this incredible treatment center, into something much more than just a treatment center is the point I'm trying to make.
For sure. It's unlike, I've been to many different treatment centers. I've been to many. It's nothing, and I don't work for Beit Shuva. It's not anything. It was something special when I walked in there. I felt safe. I felt kind of a part of something, even though I was when I was younger, but I lost that. But my question was, go ahead.
Because, I'm sorry, but what we created was a community.
Yes.
We created a place where people belonged.
Sure.
So Shane walked in. He didn't have to be anybody but Shane.
Which took a lot.
Yeah.
Took months to get to, but yeah, I mean.
Because, I mean, that's the thing, okay? We don't ask anybody to fit in. Because if we ask you to fit in, then we're asking you to change you. And what we want is you. And we want you to know you belong. A friend of mine told me this, and I've always remembered it, and I tell people all the time. His father used to tell him, every room you walk into is better because you're there. And at Beit Shuva, we believe every person who came through the doors made the place better.
So, and then since you've been around so many different people that suffer in their own ways, specifically from drugs and other things as well, but a lot of substance abuse, what is some commonality that you see in the young people and older people that come in there that we're lacking besides community? I mean, you've seen thousands of people come through. Because there's a lot of people out there that suffer, and it might not just be from substance abuse. It could be from
Gambling.
A multitude of different things that affect their everyday life and their interactions and their personal relationships to how they view themselves. But what was some commonalities that you saw, coming into Beit Shuva?
So I think the first thing that came to my mind was not good enough. That they addicts and the mental health people we've been able to help, and even those we haven't been able to help, come in with the same, I'm not good enough. They come in with the comparisons, and they come in with the shoulds. I should have, or I could have, or all these things, all these comparison, and they always fall short. And they have a deep belief that they're not good enough and that they'll never be able to change because, a leopard doesn't change its spots. And we know that change is the only constant. I think another common denominator is hopelessness and fear that they can never be forgiven.
Sure. That's something that plagued me when I went to Beit Shuva, when I went to Chabad, and then having the ability and the blessing of being able to have hindsight, living a bit differently these days. Always inadequacy, always feeling not good enough, but how that would manifest is me trying to act like I'm better than people, lying a lot, false bravado, and then fear of carrying shame around for things I've done, people I've hurt, and then I'll never be forgiven, and that's paralyzing. And what you're saying about when someone comes there, that you want them to show up. Would you agree that most of these people, the people that don't succeed, are the ones that never are able to, I guess, put down that facade or pull off that mask because they never find who they are?
Absolutely. So I have this belief.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody walks into a treatment center, they're ready. the job of the treatment center, what we get to do is speak to them in a way that they can understand and they can hear.
Sure.
And we can't always do that. Okay? Sometimes we don't pay attention to how somebody else can hear. Sometimes people won't take the cotton out of their ears.
Fair enough.
But it's whenever somebody left or we had to ask somebody to leave, I would always say, what did we miss?
Yeah, but you had a special way, at least to me, and like when I came there, I was like, do you know who the fuck I am type of individual. And I remember the first thing you said to me, you were like, you're a fucking garbage can. Like you take anything that's around and you take copious amounts and you just need to sit the fuck down and listen, right? And I remember I was like slouching down in the sanctuary and you kind of screamed at me and I wasn't a model citizen there at all.
Not even close, dude.
I mean,
The hell?
I was doing whatever I could do, and I've manipulated most of my life and gotten away with it until I had that epiphany that, when I'm thinking I'm cheating you guys out, I was really only cheating myself out of an experience to live a healthy life. But
Right.
Why I say that you had your way is because when you spoke, everybody listened because there was kind of like that fear and respect. But when I would fuck up and we would be one-on-one, it was like you were a teddy bear. You saw some divineness in me. You saw light. There wasn't screaming. There was just like connecting to me on the level that I needed to connect with. And I had never, like, you could switch it on and off, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I remember one thing specifically that really touched my heart and completely changed the way that I viewed you forever. And I think we have a great relationship, and God willing, we'll continue it into the future. But I remember I left the house because I was getting high, and I had an opportunity to either give up the drugs that I had or I could leave, and I chose to leave.
With multiple
and I took
people.
3 people out of the house with me too that ended up coming, and I only lasted like 2 or 3 days in the hotel room, and I had to be hospitalized, and there was serious issues, and I was hospitalized for 3 or 4 days.
Because what, you hit an artery and your foot swelled up to the size of an
I had
elephant.
like edema and cellulitis, and they talked about potentially amputating something.
I remember you texted me, you're like,
you're
like, this fucking crazy nurse came and said she's gonna have to amputate my foot. I said, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it was.
It was bad. I'm
I'm
getting more context to the people that are listening. We know the story, he knows the story, but people need to know. It was bad for you.
My feet were like the Nutty Professor when he's like fat and when he's sitting around, they were like swollen. I couldn't. They were terrible.
Yeah, you're getting high in a rehab. That's how sick you were. You took out other people, and then you ended up in the hospital.
But I remember I begged to come back, and there was like really nothing. I remember sitting there, and I was broken. I was so alone. I was scared. I think I was 29 years old at this time, and I remember we were sitting in your Shuva group, and you brought it to a vote, and the community voted me in, but there were a couple other people there, I'm not going to name names, but clinicians that were like, this kid is the biggest threat to our community. Like, we cannot let him in. And I remember you said, like, the community, his peers want him to be here. He's coming back in the house. And
yeah, fill out the fucking paperwork. Get this going.
It's a feeling that I felt love and I felt seen, but it's something that I can't really put into words because it marginalizes the experience. But, I just wanted to say that little anecdotal story that we had and that connection. And I want to know also, why did you say that? Because I fucked up again. Not that you knew in that moment that I wasn't going to, but, the old Shane came back, even though I was good for a while. And thank God it ended up working out. But what in that moment did you see or feel, or I'm just curious? You might not even remember, but I remember it.
No,
I think he's thinking.
I do remember it. What I saw, Shane, was I saw somebody who was broken. I saw somebody who had the humility to come and ask for help. And to recognize his mistakes and to be responsible for them. And I had this thing where when I knew that all the clinicians would be against me, I would take it to the residents, because I always knew that the residents would want to give somebody another chance, because they would want another chance.
Of course.
And staff would get crazy with me because I would do that. And you know me, I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But what I saw was a moment where kindness and recognition could save your life. And that's what was important. Again, what you were going to do with it, I had no control over. But making sure that you knew somebody saw your light, your kindness, your divinity, and your dignity, I believed would catapult you to where you are now.
Yeah, clearly it did, because it resonates with him to this moment. We were speaking about that on the way to the car. I think it was a couple nights ago we were speaking about this as well. And I think, that's not only changed his life, it's changed his brother's life, his mother's life, countless people around him. And and we were talking about, you were saying the job of people in treatment, and I was talking about people walking around with masks. And I think, and I've worked in treatment since. I don't know if you know, I went over to Team Chabad, but I still have love for you in Beit Shuva, but Team Chabad. And I think one of the major things is what resonated with me is the job is to have faith and see the people for who they are before either hope runs out for them and they leave and they do whatever, or till they see the miracle, so to speak. And it's keeping them engaged that long. And clearly, to me, that's what you did with Shane. And you would say that's an overarching theme in the people that succeed?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Is holding on long enough, as you'd say, to be able to see you for who you are, feel seen, be seen, and feel more secure than you ever have. That's the type of stuff that ends up getting people from ending up in jail, ending up in prison, getting letters from their daughter, like you were saying, being disowned by my family, thinking it's a good idea to mix heroin and cocaine and shoot drugs all day in a small bathroom in Reseda, to being able to do things like this. It's for people that took the time and had patience and kindness, which is something that I lost the luxury of receiving from people by my behaviors. Are those fair points? Make sense?
I think everything except the last phrase.
Let's hear it. Lost the luxury?
Yeah, I think that's the great mistake we make. Because everybody is entitled to kindness and another chance. The Jewish tradition says, Shalei Tshuva, the gates of Tshuva are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I'm doing a daily blog on the prophets. Are you getting? I think you're getting it, Shane, aren't you?
Yeah. Is that what you're posting on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Got it. I've seen it.
And the prophets are all telling us all the same thing. God loves you. God wants you. Stop fucking up.
Sure.
Well, if God would take me back, how the fuck can't I show you that kindness?
Fair point.
And I think that, I know AA says live life on life's terms. And I think that we have to change that.
Okay.
I think we should start living life on God's terms.
What about people that struggle? Go ahead, finish. Sorry.
Which really is what the third step is. Turning my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand God is. I'm going to live life on God's terms. I'm giving up my terms and all the other bullshit.
What about all the people that struggle with God and the concept of God, and they're already hurting and might not understand or conceive how that's even possible.
Or even they're super resentful at God. They believe in the extent enough to be super resentful at God.
So I always ask them what God they don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of, in fact, I've never had somebody give me a definition of God that the one they don't believe in, that I don't agree, I don't believe in it either.
Yeah.
For me, God is the creative force of the universe. God is the ineffable one, as Rabbi Heschel says. Too fucking big for me to ever understand. I can only connect and experience. And as we talk, people realize how many times they've had God experiences without knowing it. Love is a God experience. I mean, think about it. If not, it's a transaction.
I follow. Shane, you follow.
Marriages become transactions when divorce is the first option. So, one of the things that I said at the start about love not being a feeling anymore. Harriet and I got married in 1990. We're married 30 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we said love is not a feeling. It's a commitment. It's an action to work things out to the end.
Sure.
And given that kind of a deal, then I just got to keep figuring it out. And we've had difficult times. We've had arguments. We've had this. We've had that. And never once was divorce ever talked about or thought about, because we know that we're going to work it out.
Because of the commitment,
Right.
not the feeling. Yeah.
It's the same commitment that God gave to us at Sinai.
Okay.
That's the promises that God gave to us in Egypt. That God would take us out from the slavery, the burdens of the Egyptians, and then God would take out the inner slavery from us. And God would save us, redeem us, and give us a place.
The bondage of self that we all know too well.
Right. And we can only get out of it through God and through this love.
Yeah, I know that I tried every which way to do it on my own to get out of that bondage, but it's I don't know if it's virtually impossible, but it was virtually impossible for me to crack that, and I finally found an easier, more graceful way of handling that, and I'm grateful for it. What would you say are some rudimentary or kind of like base level things that people could implement in their daily routine or daily life if they're struggling? Obviously, you do a lot of studying. Go ahead.
Do you remember the first exercise I gave you?
Probably not. What was you
Write
remember
that-
the first exercise? What was the first exercise you gave him?
No, I
Write
think
down
it was to write down things that I was to practice more self-compassion for myself and to write down things that I was grateful for.
Don't look at me. I don't know what
Yeah.
your assignment was.
That was the second thing. The first thing was what are the lies you tell yourself?
Oh, that's right. What are the lies I tell myself?
You think that's an overarching important thing for every human to look at, is for them to identify the
Absolutely.
lies they tell themselves?
Absolutely.
Because again, I always tell people this show's not just for addicts. I believe all humans suffer from the same thing.
Of course,
all humans suffer from the same thing, and everyone lies to themselves. So, can you dig into that philosophy of the lies you tell yourself and how that helps uncover truth about yourself? I'd assume that's where it gets to.
Right. So, over the last year, it's been a difficult year for me. And I've had to take a look, and I realized that one of the lies I told myself was I was invincible.
Got it.
And that I could handle anything and everything. And over the years, I've taken a lot of bullets. And I thought the armor was still in good shape.
Intact.
Yeah.
And I thought I had enough in my spiritual bank account that if I fucked up, okay,
You just
it's a
make a withdrawal from the
but,
spirit. Yeah, get it.
but and what happened was I was kind of pushed out, let go, moved out, however you want to put it.
Of Beit Tshuva?
Yeah, and I had to ask myself, what lies had I told myself up until that point?
Sure.
So the lies become more subtle. And the more you grow in your recovery, the more important I believe it is to take a look at that. And for people, most people start out with, I'm not good enough. That's the first lie we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
You're good enough. Your actions may not show it, but you yourself are good enough. Because you have a soul and you're created in the image of God.
No matter who you are.
Right.
Got it.
Another lie is, well, related to that, I'm a failure. Nobody likes me. That all of that kind of stuff. And people, once they get into it, they start writing, and then you sit down with them and you go through it. And they start to realize the rest of the story. So, one of the things that I have people do at times is to take a look and see how are they enslaved to conventional notions and mental cliches.
What do you define as a couple? Can you give a couple of examples for some people what these examples of conventional notions and mental cliches would be, so they can connect a little easier?
Sure. So the rabbi is supposed to know, or I'm supposed to be smarter or better than this.
So speaking like these like absolute terms, I should be, I must be, I have to do this. Got it.
Right. And in order to be liked, I have to be in the right school, and I have to have the right degree, the right job, the right wife, the right house, all of that kind of bullshit.
Bullshit. That's just simply what it is. Bullshit.
Right.
Got it.
Okay. And for me, the thing is how do I take off the mask?
Yeah.
And how do I undo the mental makeup that I have been?
It's especially hard though too, with everything in society too, right? Everything is
right, but most of us don't even fucking like society.
Yeah.
Here's the insanity. You guys want to hear the insanity?
Let's hear the insanity.
Listen to this. You can't stand these motherfuckers that you're trying to impress.
Fuck yeah.
It's true.
I mean, right?
It's actually sick, but then why do we still try to impress them when we can't fucking stand them? Blows my fucking mind.
Because that's a conventional notion.
That's the example I was looking for. Now we're getting somewhere, huh? No, but I hear what you're saying, all joking aside, truly. And a lot of people suffer with that. And then they post a lot of corny memes on Instagram. Stop spending money to impress people you don't even love, and then they try to get some likes and some validation from shit like that. So I know what you mean.
But I feel like that stems, at least my experience, and my experience is very valid in that exact realm, is because I had a lack of identity myself, and so I needed external forces to validate me, and it really just comes down to fear and inadequacy. And until you can successfully deal with those things, I think it's virtually impossible to overcome those, cliches and, what we just talked about.
The problem, though, guys, is that parents will raise their kids' bodies, raise their minds, they'll even send them to shrinks to raise their emotions. But nobody raises their spirits. And the only way you can have an identity is through your inner life and your spirit. if we would spend more time raising kids' spirits and not giving everybody, oh, you're the greatest student in the world, you're the this. No, you know what? Shane, you're better at selling. That is your calling. You could sell ice to an Eskimo. So let me help you do that in a way that is congruent with decency and respect and dignity. That's a whole different upbringing.
Yeah.
And you're right, okay? Because everybody's trying to take somebody else's identity. And here's the truth. We don't need another Shane Moses. You're unique, and that's it. So everybody else has to be themselves in order to make the world good and work well. That's the problem that we have. So you're right. You need the identity. And the identity has to start when you're young. Otherwise, you go searching and it can never be enough.
Well, that's why so many of us end up getting so fucked up along the way, though, too. You know? I mean...
Right.
So far off the beaten path. I think one other thing that came to me is, like you said, what are the lies that you tell yourself? Another thing that is probably worth writing down is, you know, who am I not? You know, because starting like who am I not gets me closer to, you know, who I am and who I'm supposed to be. But
right.
it kind of, you know, you have to go through life and experience things to know what am I passionate about, what's not congruent with me, what works, what doesn't. And I mean, it's kind of this ebb and flow, and I don't ever think the dance or the music in this life ever stops. But, you know, when you're able to hear it and in tune with it, life becomes a lot more, you know, I wouldn't even say manageable. It's exciting when you're passionate about something and you're connected and you live with principles and you're able to actually show up and be helpful to people instead of just figuring out a way to rip them off so that you can get your ends or whatever you wanted to get out to start with. It's a completely different way to live life. And it's a beautiful thing when you're able to do it successfully, if that point makes sense.
Right. So I agree 100%. So Rabbi Heschel says, man asks, what am I getting out of life? God asks, what's life getting out of you? You ever want to do an interesting inventory? Do a daily or a weekly inventory. Actually, I did it daily for 2 weeks. What did life get out of me today? And I could take a look and see what did life get out of me that was good and helpful, and what did life get out of me that was fucked up and harmful. And all of a sudden, I saw my life in a bigger context because I wasn't answering my call. I was answering God's call.
Sure.
And that goes back to that first thing. God is always calling us, where are you? And are we going to say, Hineni, here I am, or are we going to be hiding? If I say, here I am, then I got to show up.
Sure.
So we're taught to put masks on when we're kids.
Yeah. That is the time we're taught to put masks on. And then it's interesting.
I'm saying that's the time to make sure you never put them on.
Fair enough, because then people end up growing into adults with the same mask on. And they go through life as that, going through life with these lies that they tell themselves, I guess we were speaking on. And they literally live and embody those lies, and their thinking is limited to their life experiences based on how they operated with those lies. Fair?
Yeah, and I think that one of the things, Shane's heard me say this, that most people live at low-grade misery.
What's low-grade misery? I like that. That sounds like a cool, nice little buzzword there.
How's things? They're all right. Could be better.
Love it.
You know, all of that. Oh, I got this problem. You ask me, how are you? How's life? It's fucking great.
It's what you always say, same shit, different day mentality. That's got to go.
Gotta go.
Because there's no such thing as same shit, different day. There can't be. Yesterday can't be the same as today. It just can't be. I mean,
And
you
if
can
it
choose
is-
to view things like that, but like you said, low-grade misery.
Right. I mean, same shit, different days. I want to kill people when they say that.
Yeah. But
I think
we
that
don't.
people in recovery understand today is a fucking gift.
If we choose to look at it like that, most people are operating as they don't choose to look at it like that, though. And that's why they have
Right.
this misery.
But listen to this, okay?
Okay.
This is how I don't know how much time we have, but I got to just say this. Every morning we get up as Jews, we say Modeh, thank you, God, for returning my soul to me with compassion. Great is your faithfulness. How don't you know that today's a gift? Your soul was returned.
So I think we take, as humans, it's at least, how about this in my experience, it's easy to take life for granted. It truly is.
Right.
Everything we have.
Right?
Everything.
And that is relapse.
True. That's why it's imperative for me to before I go to bed every day to give gratitude. Minimum of 10 things. As corny as it is, it doesn't matter if it's this conversation, a cup of water, hearing the words "I loved you" today, because I used to not hear that for a period of time, but doesn't mean I don't act with ego, or doesn't mean I don't get away from my home base, so to speak, and make mistakes. However, that is a good foundational piece for me to have. Is something that I would call corny, but really it's just not corny. It's actually very important to me.
I think it's holy. I don't think it's corny. I think it's holy.
Well,
Because what's greater than acknowledging how grateful I am that I have this life, my life.
First
Not
thing,
yours, not
the first thing
yours,
I give gratitude
mine.
for. I'm not, I'm religious. I'm not. I don't practice Judaism as you guys would practice Judaism. But I believe that there's something greater than me, which is important and more humbling to me, because I used to believe I'm the center of everyone's universe. So to be able to, the first thing I always give gratitude for is thank you, God, for another day of life. That's first and foremost. And sometimes I believe that, and I mean it more times than others. But I know it's very important to say, even when I don't mean it as much, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I'm a little more tired or a little less grateful, but I know I have to at least return what's been given to me, which is the gift, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You know, and the amount of energy you have, it has to change every day, because every day you're different and every day is different.
Yes.
One thing that has always resonated with me is that you've always said that, not me personally, but everybody collectively has a responsibility, and that responsibility is to, live a life that's authentic. Even though that sounds very, I don't know if that's cliche or what, but like for me to sit here and be sorry for myself from the past that I've had, and the friends that I've had to bury, and the sleepless nights I've given my parents, and the drugs, and the crime, and the everything, everything that I've done and caused, and I came out of it almost pretty much unscathed, thank God, and I'm able to help and show up in other people's lives and in my life today, is a responsibility. And every day should be a gift in a beautiful way. I don't always view that, but when you look at it, like from where I came from to where I'm at today, it's a miracle, to say the least. And
Absolutely. And I think that if you take the word responsibility, it means ability to respond. Right? You just switch it around. So all of us we get to respond. We get to. There's no have tos in my life. It's all get to. I get to show up. I get to hang out with you guys. I get to be married to the greatest lady on earth. I get to have a daughter that lights up my world. I get to be part of a family that is nurturing and caring. I get to be part of a community. I get to be part of a fellowship. All of these things I get to do, and I have to return. I have to have response to it. And the response is the decency and the caring and the return of kindness. It's what one of my rabbis, Jonathan Overman, said, a reciprocity of generosity. I may not return to you the gifts you give me, I do, however, pass those gifts along, which is the 12th step, right? Carry this message to alcoholics who still suffer and practice these principles in all my affairs. I mean, think about it. That's what we get to do in recovery. And you were saying about this being for, all people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing. I mean, Shane's heard it before, but Harriet has a whole pitch about you don't have to be an addict to be in recovery.
I agree with that. Again, I always say this. All humans suffer.
Right.
All humans suffer, and all humans can do better. All humans can learn.
Yes, all humans can learn.
No matter what it is. No
Right.
matter what it is.
Rabbi Twersky of blessed memory, he said that the difference between humans and animals and angels is that we have the ability to make free will moral choices, and they don't. An animal is run by instinct, and an angel is run by God. They can't say no. Humans can say no and can make choices.
Sure.
And when you choose to see life as a gift, and you choose to see that we all need to act more humanely, that's a choice.
Sure.
It's a choice to take things for granted. And unfortunately, some of those choices, it becomes harder to make, to see it as a choice when you've been raised with it.
Yeah, it's an unconscious choice, essentially.
Right.
It's faulty programming, let's call it.
Right.
And sometimes it takes losing a lot of things, losing your freedom, humiliating yourself, things of that nature to understand some things.
So we talked about a kind of a, something, a practical way is the lies. What are the lies that you tell yourself? What's another maybe one or two quick things that you think that could be beneficial to people that are suffering, stagnant, still in a place of uncertainty? I mean, I think there's a lot of that going on in the world right now. A lot of disconnection, a lot of fear. I don't necessarily feel that, we're all or especially now, as connected as we could be on a greater frequency.
So one of the things I like for people to do is to see is what do I take for granted? And how am I making, what free will choices did I make today? And what did I do on autopilot? Those are real key things for me.
Of course. I feel like it's hard to sometimes recognize what you're doing on autopilot. At least for...
Not when you sit down at the end of the day and you review it.
Sure. But still, I feel like you could be conscious of a lot of things. I'm saying sometimes, not all the time. But I feel like a lot of people are stuck in their ways and they feel justified in their actions,
Right,
behaviors.
But again, okay, I'm not talking about justified or not justified.
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking about awareness.
Yes.
Intention.
Yes.
Because once you're aware that I take this for granted.
I follow.
You can then make a choice to say, do I really want to take it for granted or do I want to see what it is today?
I guess I was trying to understand the mechanics of the thought process there, so I get it.
That's all right.
For myself and for people listening and watching.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
I what happens for me is I start, I'm always like 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. And Harriet tells me all the time, no, you have to go step by step by step. Stop your leaps.
No, the leaps are good, but sometimes for the people that aren't playing chess like you're playing chess, we got to do checker moves from time to time, right?
I'm with you, babe. I'm with you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I think, listen, Rabbi Heschel says there's something sacred at stake in every event. So how do I find the holiness in my interactions during the day?
Well, I would say that you're finding some holiness by imparting wisdom right now. So we got one off the list.
There you go. Just hanging out with you guys is knowing that I get to hang out with you guys is something that's sacred. There's a holiness in this moment because there's a connection and an authenticity and a realness.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's interesting you still keep this perspective, but you touched on one thing about how difficult this past year was for you, yet you're still here smiling, saying life's fantastic, releasing daily bits of wisdom, let's call it, across LinkedIn and what you said you shared with Shane. What was your way of living? I guess were there things that are you grateful for the, let's call it here, the shameless promotion, the damage that was done that brought you to that place, essentially to have pushed you out and now put you onto the trajectory you're on now? Does that make sense?
God did for me what I couldn't do for myself.
And do you think that when God did that for you, what you couldn't do for yourself, that helped you see some things about yourself that put you in a position to learn more?
Absolutely.
Because I think it's important for people to know you're an established person. You've someone that literally was running with the mafia, ended up in prison, was getting letters from his daughter with her heart broken. You have a great relationship with your family. You are polarizing. People do love or hate you, but you are somebody. You're a figure. Yet you're still living in this manner through it all. So that clearly shows that even someone like you can learn, right? That's the point I'm trying to get at.
If I'm not learning, I'm dead.
Good.
That's another thing that people can do, okay? I used to write down, what did I learn today? Every day I would write it down so that I could start to build on learning instead of keep destroying.
Sure. No, I hear that 100%. And again, I think
just so you know, even in this year of difficulty,
yeah,
it was with God and a few very dear friends and my wife and family that I kept taking a look and seeing, okay, what's my part? And in doing that, I learned more. And about, I don't know, I think it was about 5 months ago, 6 months ago, I really I woke up one morning and I said, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself.
So you had kind of more of like an epiphany or like a revelation about like who you are as an individual, you'd say?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I keep getting revelations from God.
Sure.
I'm blessed.
I mean, I think those are some great things. What are the lies that I tell myself? What did I take for granted today? And what did I learn? I mean, if you can, we sit with ourselves anyways enough upstairs and put some pen to paper, and I'm sure, you'll see some result and some clarity of the things you tell yourself or the things that you say to yourself or the things that you act on a daily basis. I don't think enough people, including myself, supposed to be part of my regimen to stay spiritually connected, but I don't always do that.
No.
I notice when I do, things happen that are better, but I'm like I have the human that human syndrome of like I know things that are good for me, but I do the exact opposite.
But that's why you have to have a routine and never do it routinely. It says in Ethics of the Fathers that so a lot of people have a routine of saying the third step prayer in the morning or the seventh step prayer. And if all they do is it doesn't mean anything. But when they put themselves in it and they have a meaning and power behind it, it changes everything. So it's not that everything's going to be better because I'm doing this. It means I'm going to be able to deal with everything in a better manner.
I think that's important for especially the alcoholics and addicts to hear, because alcoholics and addicts are predisposed to instant gratification, instant results, and that's kind of a different there's more action and there's something more behind it that, at least for me, to experience some of that results and connectedness, it takes some effort. It's delayed gratification, let's call it. And I feel like it's very important to hammer home, because could be a flaw now, but my major flaw, which led me back to shooting drugs after I wasn't shooting drugs, is expecting life to change in the amount of time I wanted to change. I wanted people to forgive me on my timeline, instant gratification. I wanted to get the job I wanted on my timeline. I wanted this girl to like me on my timeline. I wanted all these things, and that's a faulty foundation to build any sort of self-improvement on. It's external factors, one, but also it's all about instant gratification, self-centered, me, with not the right intention behind it. You follow what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of people fall victim to that.
Right. Well, you know what? You know how long it takes to become an instant success, right?
Years.
About 10.
Years. Yeah, we have some more time. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think anybody expects. I mean, look, I'm the shortcut used to be. I mean, still sometimes, but the shortcut king. And, you know, I don't think that anybody, at least I'm hoping that nobody thinks that this is a, you know, like these things will not make every day, you know, like you're breezing and on cloud nine, because life still happens. It's just a way to, you know, go through life a little bit with some more grace, some more intention. And I think that if you can build that muscle, that you'll show up and face life more successfully. And that will in turn, you know, make you a happier person, in my opinion, instead of always running against the grain and not going with.
But it's not just your opinion. Okay, it really isn't, Shane. Both of you have the experience.
Yeah.
Of this being true. We all have the experience of this being true. And the reason I'm pushing you on this is because opinions are like, you know, assholes. Everybody's got one and nobody listens.
Mm-hmm.
Experience, that's different. That's, wow. Okay, this guy's been where I've been.
Sure.
Has this experience. That means it's possible for me.
Yeah, no, you're right. I need to claim it and own that shit. I don't always, but yes, you're absolutely right. It is my experience, and you know, it's factual in my life. When I do those things,
so you're just going to own it. I say, in my opinion, when I'm trying not to be an asshole, even though sometimes it's better to be an asshole, because it's better just to be truthful instead of just like sugarcoating, like in my opinion. But truly saying, in my experience, I feel like that's more efficient and effective to carry a message and drive the point home with the right intentions, I guess is what I'm saying. So I feel like you're doing the same thing there, in my opinion.
Well, it's also good to have Rabbi Mark in your corner, because he calls you on your bullshit and pushes you.
Yeah, I get that too.
So real quick, a couple things. What are you up to? What are you working on? What books have you published? And where can people kind of check you out and keep up to date with what you're doing?
Well, rabbimark.com, they can check me out.
RABBIMARK.
Yes.
Got it.
Thank you. And, you know, I have the books, Finding Recovery in Yourself in Torah, The Holy Thief.
Yes.
You Matter. And I'm working on two others. I'm working on a book, How to Live Rabbi Heschel. And I'm going to put together eventually all of these blogs on the prophets into a daily book. And I'm thinking about doing a podcast on it. And,
I was going to pitch you on that idea. We'll produce it.
Okay, you got it. I'm in.
Truly.
Rich, I'm serious. Richie and Justin told me to talk with you guys.
Yeah, no, this is something I was going to bring up to you. So we'll do this on air, and we'll talk about it more often.
So, you know, and I got a couple of crazy ideas that I don't want to talk about yet, but I'm kind of working on that, and I'll let you guys know first.
Fair enough.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a great thing and a lot of fun. So
I like great things and fun things. I would love to hear about this.
You got it. Well, offline we'll talk.
Yeah,
definitely.
We'll talk more offline. So, you know, just again, in closing, it's just the holy thief, but you're much more than the holy thief. And that's sure. Again,
Thank you.
there's thousands of people that give gratitude. It's of course, yeah, you're polarizing in a sense, love, hate, but it's much more love. And I think what was super important is telling the arc of your story to what happened this last year, and the humility displayed, and something that you elevated and built, and you're still here standing, helping more people and doing more, and it doesn't stop. And I think that's pretty empowering. That's what resonates with me, and I hope that resonates with other people, because it shows that people can always learn and grow regardless of what they think a rabbi should do or how they should act. You're still a human doing your best. Fair to say?
That's it. Yeah, and listen, I'm still as feisty and argumentative and loud
Yeah, never lose
as
that.
I've ever been.
Yeah, never lose
Right,
that.
Right.
Let the holy thief come out. That's fine. We get it.
Right. That's it.
But you're
Thank
also...
you. I want to thank you guys. I got to tell you something. Your questions are great.
Thank you.
Your thoughts are amazing, and your spirits are powerful. And I really want to congratulate you guys on doing this. Thank you for having me. And I really do want to work with you. I want to.
It would be an honor. And thanks for being here. Again, go to rabbimark.com. More will be coming out. The voice will be amplified. Here we are. And that's going to be a
Rabbi,
wrap.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came into my life, and looking forward to Saturday. And thank you so much for coming on tonight. And we're grateful to have you, and we love you.
Thank you. Love you guys. Okay. God bless.
All right,
God
good night.
bless. Be well.
Good night. Be well.